The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers. Each life we incarnate into has a divine purpose. For the majority of people on this planet, their purpose has eluded them. We have become so distracted with the struggle to survive that we have forgotten what we are here to do. In alignment with the sacred laws of nature, the ultimate purpose of all existence is to create and evolve. We certainly do not incarnate into life with the intention to destroy. And yet, we have come to live in a very destructive world. As a result, there are many out there who feel lost or adrift, whilst knowing deep down inside that something is very wrong with their reality. Many people wish they could do something of value, anything that is purposeful, instead of having to submit to a system of slavery in order to survive. It is important never to let go of that feeling. That is your soul crying out to you, telling you that your life has value and that you do indeed have a purpose. The most important thing you can do in life is to recognize your purpose, and often that requires a lot of soul searching. Life indeed dishes out some pretty tough challenges, which will either move you closer towards your purpose path, or will give you great training for when you finally realize what it is that you came here to do. But more often than not, the very clues about your life's purpose are hidden in plain sight, woven into the very fabric of our existence. But we are so easily distracted by irrelevant details that don't really matter, that often we miss the very obvious right in front of us. It is because of our willful ignorance of anything that does not fit our preconceived ideas that the truth about the nature of our reality is so readily hidden in plain sight. This is a very deep and personal journey, which has come to be expressed in many aspects throughout my life. This is not just an attempt to retell a bunch of research and pass it off as my own, for I am very grateful and openly acknowledge all the many wonderful people that I have been given the opportunity to work with and to learn from in order to get to the point where I've come to know what I now know. This is a journey I was always destined to go on, and likewise, how I have come to know this information forms as much a part of the story as the information itself.
3, 2, 1, your life.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Mel Ve, and this is Conscious Consumer Network coming to you live from an undisclosed location somewhere in Europe. I hope you're all settled in for episode 10 of season 2 of Dragonology. Wow, I can't believe it's already on episode 10. It's just gone so fast. But saying that, there's a hell of a lot of work that goes into preparing something like this, and also a lot of learning. And it's been a wonderful journey. Thank you to all those amazing people who continue to write in and who share this information and who've been posting stuff and referencing and doing their own research based on tidbits that they've learned from the series. It truly has been a wonderfully fulfilling and rewarding experience to learn, engage, and portray this information, not just in the process of the dissemination and the learning, but with the people that have engaged it and who have engaged me as a result. So thank you to all of you. And if you're new to Dragonology, please go back and watch the previous episodes. Season 1, episodes 1 to 13. And of course, this is episode 10 of season 2. So make sure you catch up on episodes 1 through 9. All of our episodes of Dragonology are available in high definition archives. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that when we get to the end. So for now, we trip on with season 10, I beg your pardon, episode 10, which, let's just say, really starts to hammer home some of what we've been taught. We'll be dragging in a few of the themes that we've been covering off, showing you how they tie into other themes. And, well, let's say we'll be weaving and unweaving this multi-layered, multi-dimensional draconian tapestry that keeps us enslaved and in this very artificial serpentine construct. First off, one of the most inextricable things that we can't really separate from dragons is that they seem to be the root of all of our culture. And we've covered this off extensively in previous Dragonologies. It's such a sweeping statement. So if you're new to this, people are going to go, whoa, wow, okay, that's a big thing to say, but it's true. Almost everything we know as culture is rooted with the dragon, okay? And Dragonology explores the ritual roots of our culture. And basically, the word cult, being in culture, is no accident, okay? Because almost everything we do is ritualistic. Our entire culture is predicated upon rituals, which are predicated upon rituals, which and everything in a ritual has a symbolic allegory. Everything has purpose. Everything is done for a specific reason. So there's a lot of hidden intent behind things that perhaps for us we take very much for granted, just as very everyday, mundane things. And perhaps we need to look deeper into some of our patterns of behavior, the way we go about our lives, in order that we can affect change and deprogram from this artificial draconian construct. Now, let's have a look at some of the things which we've covered off in previous Dragonologies that are inextricably rooted in ritual, okay? Culture, for example, I beg your pardon, Halloween is a part of culture that we've covered off quite a bit in previous Dragonologies, and the cultural aspects of Halloween are multi-layered and multi-symbolic. And of course, we've got Halloween coming up the next couple of days. So we really get to nail home all these various festivals. But why I like Halloween is because of all the various rituals and festivals that we celebrate and engage in. For me, Halloween is the most honest because it actually, it's not hiding what it's about. It's pretty straight down the line about what it's all about. In fact, most rituals and most holidays are about very much the same thing. They all come from pagan cultic origins. And we're going to take you through that all today. So Halloween, of course, being at the top, and then, of course, Christmas, and then the counterpart to Christmas being Easter. And then the ritual of wedding and funerals. We've covered off weddings previously, but we're going to do a bit more of that in this episode. And, of course, birthdays. Yes, they're a ritual too. We'll get a bit more into that. Feasts and meal times, we've covered that off previously. Those are rituals.
parties, carnivals, and festivals. Just by the etymology, you know that these are rooted in ritual. And of course, dancing, singing, and music, theatre and entertainment, sports, competition, games, and races, all rooted in ritual. Then, of course, one of the things we're going to get a bit more into tonight is the whole concept of dressing up or adornment, okay? And then the giving and receiving of gifts and treats, and, of course, baptism and christening, which is something that leads on to much deeper allegories, and all gets very interesting. So let's press on. Okay. Ritual and sacrifice are inextricably linked. Ritual isn't really ritual without sacrifice. Even if there isn't sacrifice, there's normally some kind of symbolic representation of a sacrifice, be it the eating of something, be it the cutting of something. It doesn't even have to be meat or human or animal. It can be flowers, can be fruit, the first fruits. There's various allegories, but it's all symbolic of the same thing. Okay, it's all hidden behind many layers of symbols, and that ultimately ritual and sacrifice is the very root of our culture, of the sort of whole dragon aspect of worship. Okay, all religions come back to one common root, and that is the worship of the dragon. And how do they worship the dragon? Through ritual and sacrifice. And all rituals have evolved from this common originating point. We spoke about this already, how pivotal the sun is to ritual, but just to cover this off again, the movement of the sun is central to everything to do with ritual, okay? And a ritual is that which happens at a specific time, at a specific place, for a specific purpose. And the sun is obviously how we determine time. Halloween and harvest, of course, as we've already spoken about many times in previous Dragonologies, are linked to the solar cycles and are linked with birth, death, rebirth, resurrection, fertility, and harvest rituals. Religious holidays as rituals. Okay, now Christmas is a ritual, flat out. Can't deny it. Absolutely everything about it is ritualistic. Okay, and let's have a look at this. The celebration of Christmas has, well, so many different things to sort of ponder on. I really had to be selective about what I decide to speak about. Perhaps I'll do some more of them, but this is one of the most important things that we've already covered off, and that is the birth of the sun on the 25th of December, following the death of the sun, which happens at winter solstice on the 21st, okay? Because Jesus, again, is nothing more than an astrotheological hybrid of a sun god, a solar messiah, and that's why he is the Son of God, which is the S-O-N, okay, which is just a pun on sun, which, of course, really we talk about the movements of the sun through the sky. And of course, it is nearly Christmas, and all the Christmas tinsel's out in the shops, and yeah, the music is playing and getting consumers to go shop and programming them into spending their energetic currency on crap they just don't need. All very ritualistic. And of course, we spoke about this in previous Dragonologies, just how Jesus is in fact a sun god. And the way it works is it's really got to do with the birth of the sun, which happens winter solstice. The sun kind of stops at one place and seems to stay there for 3 days, and then it moves 1 degree to the north on the 25th, and that supposedly marks the coming of the lengthening of days, and which then brings spring and warm weather and the seasons of growth and renewal. So that's really what it's all about. And of course, the sun moving 1 degree to the north happens on the 25th of December. And that's really what the story pertaining to the birth of Jesus is symbolic of. It's just a story that ties into the alignment of the sun and the stars during the winter solstice. And in fact, Orion's belt is representative of the 3 kings, and the star in the east being Sirius, okay? And the 3 kings align with Sirius, which also aligns with the place on the horizon that the sun rises on the 25th. So it's all about alignment, yeah? We spoke about this previously as well when we were speaking about Jesus in this Da Vinci painting. It's about the alignment. Jesus is the center of this painting. Everything is always in alignment. When it comes to ritual, they like to make sure that everything lines up. So the ritual of Christmas, let's look at some of the ritualistic aspects. Many of the rituals associated with Christmas have occult meanings, which are rather sinister. Okay, we've covered a lot of the stuff off previously. Some of the stuff, for example, being the feasting, the eating, the wrapping of gifts, which again is symbolic of the hidden votive or the concealment or the adornment, things like decorating the tree, decorating the tables, putting tinsel up all over your house, putting lights up, all that kind of thing is labeled under adornment, which is a ritual practice. And of course, dressing up is just another form of adornment. We adorn our body with various things, external changes of identity to cover. For example, the whole masking concept. We mask our bodies with different things to create different effects for ritual effect. Okay, Santa Claus. Santa Claus is a folklorish figure universally associated with Christmas. And what is interesting is Santa Claus is the dude who supposedly brings gifts to children who have been good or obedient, but this guy doesn't really exist. It's just a big play. And I must just say, to any parent who teaches their children this absolute codswallop, you deserve to be slapped, really. Santa, the word Santa is tied into the group of words that go along with saint, Satan, and Saturn. Okay, they all stem from the same group of words: Santa, Saint, Satan, and Saturn. This dude comes down the tree and delivers presents if your children have been good. It's a good way to mind control and teach children to believe in stuff that doesn't exist by promising them treats. Absolutely crazy. So, Easter. Easter is a very, very interesting time of year, okay? Easter is ritually associated, is a ritual celebration because it's celebrated in accordance with the solar cycles, and of course, usually happens around the spring equinox and represents the balancing of light and dark, okay? With light gaining power. So what happens at Easter supposedly is the day and the night, are at equal lengths. They are the same period. That are both reach a 12-hour period. The sunrise and from sunrise to sunset is exactly 12 hours, and from sunset to sunrise is exactly 12 hours, and with light gaining power. Okay, because after the spring equinox, you have the days becoming longer, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the movements of the sun. Everything in ritual comes down to the movements of the sun. Now, the word Easter originates with a Germanic word, astara, and I have marked the word star in here because we will be dealing with the word star later on in this presentation, so remember that. But astara references a Saxon feminine deity of birth, death, and renewal, and in effect has very little to do with Jesus and Christianity. And here's a sort of a wood carving depiction of Ostara. And you can see bunnies here, commonly associated with the symbol of rabbits. Now, what's interesting to notice is that Ostara, obviously Easter comes from Ostara, but Ishtar is very similar to Easter and Ostara as well. Yeah? Ishtar is Easter and Ostara etymologically cognizant with Ishtar, who was a Semitic, Akkadian, Assyrian, and Babylonian goddess of fertility, sex, love, and war. So very widely represented in the ancient world. Throughout the ancient world, Ishtar was known. And this is the Burney frieze, which I think is available to see in the British Museum. But you notice the owls next to these depictions of Ishtar with the clawed feet, winged deity. Very interesting. Now, Easter is very interesting as well because what you've got happening at Easter time is this little ritual, which, as kids, you don't really question. It just seems like a lot of fun. But like eggs, kind of random, really. Things crack and they're all gooey on the inside, so why use eggs? But yeah, eggs. Eggs are a massive symbol of Easter. Easter eggs, or paschal eggs as they're known, are usually decorated, and they're often given as gifts or they're hidden away, and you have Easter egg hunts. Now, the hunt is very much a ritual as well. So, and this is normally done at Easter or springtime or equinox. So it's all tied in with the sun. And one of the oldest traditions regarding this is to dye or to paint the eggs. And it's normally done to chicken eggs or goose eggs. But more modern traditions substitute these eggs with edible candy eggs. I remember the white, you used to get the white ones with chocolate on the inside, and you get all variations of them now. Even have, you call them Easter eggs, but they're not really eggs. They're actually Easter bunnies. They're bunny rabbit chocolates, which get sold at Easter time. And there's much representation of this. But again, they're edible, okay? They've made these things, they've substituted them for an edible votive. Again, this is all symbolic of the sacrificial votive, the eating of the sacrifice. Eggs are symbolic of fertility and rebirth, okay? And of course, symbolic of a newborn or a firstborn child, yeah, like the first fruits. At spring, like you have the spring lamb, okay? All this kind of symbolism ties in together. The lamb symbolism and the use of lamb symbolism is very common in springtime. And here you've actually got an Easter lamb carrying Easter eggs. And it's very, very much indicative of multi-layered symbolic allegory. We have covered off the lamb quite a lot in previous Dragonologies, but I'm going to get a bit deeper into it tonight. The sacrifice and feasting on of the spring lamb is absolutely crucial to this whole springtime ritual. Common dish at this time of year, obviously, is roast lamb. And over Passover, they actually do roast a lamb like this over a spit for the whole burnt offering, burnt sacrifice, which we've covered off quite a bit. Passover is generally celebrated as a Judaic ritual, and it's also celebrated around the same time as Easter, and involves the slaughtering of a lamb. Ritualistically, there's a whole way they go about it. And we've covered off in previous Dragonologies how Jesus is represented as a sacrificial lamb, like a sacrificial goat or a scapegoat. He died for our sins. You know, this whole allegory plays into it. The symbolic representation of the sacrificial lamb is indicative of the hidden votive or sacrifice. So we're substituting, yeah? It's like the scapegoat is a substitute. So substitution again, theme coming back here. So the lamb is a substitution for Jesus. The lamb represents the flesh of Jesus, okay? And the flesh and the blood. And you'll notice here, this is from the Gwent altar. We covered this off in previous Dragonologies. Here's a chalice catching blood, and notice the halo. So it's probably Jesus, because he always had a halo around his head, solar halo. And what's interesting to notice is that the Hebrew word for human skin and light is the same thing. It's or. But that's also a serpent root word. It's the most common serpent root word out there, okay, is or. Most common serpent root there is. That comes up in more dragon etymology than any other root that I have found, is the or root. People who have been through my Dragonology, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Or is the most common dragon root word. Very interesting. So the Hebrew word for human skin and light is or, okay? The Arabic word lamb, L-A-H-M, which sounds exactly the same as lamb, okay? And so it is, in fact, etymologically cognizant. It's just the H is over here and the M is over here, and there's a B on the spelling of lamb. So, but they said exactly the same way, lamb. The Arabic word lamb, which is the same as this English lamb, okay? This word here means meat or flesh. The Arabic word lamb means meat or flesh. Beg your pardon. And is equivalent to the Egyptian Arabic lama, meaning shine. So here you have a Hebrew word or, meaning human skin or light. All right. Then the Arabic word for like flesh, lamb, can also be lama, to shine, like light. And this in turn corresponds with the English interplay between the words flesh and flash. Look at that. So I'll take you through that again. Human skin or light in Hebrew is or, okay? In the Arabic, lamb means meat, okay? It's very similar to the word lamb. Meat or flesh, like the flesh and blood of Jesus. Think about it that way, the flesh of Jesus. Eat of my flesh, drink of my blood, all that. So, and of course, that is very similar to the Egyptian Arabic, lama, meaning shine. This in turn corresponds with the English interplay between flesh and flash. These words are not similarly spelt by accident. Okay, there's a reason why flesh and flash are very, very much the same. It's because it's the same in all the ancient languages that all tie in to this allegory of Jesus's flesh, okay, and lamb as a sacrificial votive. And we'll take you on to a bit more of this etymology. It's very freaking interesting. Lammas Day. Okay, if you've watched Lord of the Rings, you'll be familiar with lammas bread. Now, Lammas Day is celebrated on the 1st of August and is derived from the old Anglo-Saxon word loaf mass. Okay, so what it is, it's loaf, referencing wheat again, and mass, like a ritualistic mass. So it's, again, a wheat mass to celebrate a festival of the wheat harvest. And it's the first harvest festival of the year. Okay, a very important festival. Now, here's a Lammas blessing, a Wiccan Lammas blessing. It goes, hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Corn and grain, all that falls shall rise again. Okay, again, very much sun allegory tying into this. And this is this beautiful earth, sort of more pagan Wiccan traditions that sort of follow this. And they were very much messed up by the Christian church and thought to be very evil and wicked. But yeah, that's basically kind of what this is a cornucopia basket over here, which is also very ritualistic. I'll get to the cornucopia next time. But basically, Lammas Day, as I said, the first harvest festival of the harvest season, and it's the festival of the wheat harvest. All right, and lammas, very much similar to the word lamb, or lamb, meaning flesh, or lama, meaning shine, flesh and flash. So that's why Lammas Day ties in here, because it's very much etymologically cognizant with these words here, lamb and lama. Okay, now why this is important again is we've dealt with this many times. The feasting on of Jesus, okay, the body and blood of Christ, common known Eucharistic ritual. The bread is the body of Christ, the wine is the blood of Christ. And of course, they do this ritual, it's called the Holy Communion, where they give you bread to eat and you drink wine. In some churches, they give you grape juice. I've done this many times as a kid at the Baptist church, participated in this ritual. The concept of eating Jesus is represented by bread and wine, and is one of the most common rituals known as the Holy Communion. And most people don't even know what they're doing and how deep this ritual goes and the allegory of it. Okay, but what it does prove is the connection between the wheat and the flesh. Okay, because the wheat and the flesh is very important. This lammas bread and loaf, okay, and the wheat festival being the flesh, which again is represented by the lamb of Jesus, okay, which is often sacrificed. So that is how all of that kind of ties in together. Okay, these rituals are all very deeply symbolically interwoven. Everything has a purpose. You need to know what each and every factor within these rituals represents. And once you know the hallmarks, you'll be able to spot them and know exactly what absolutely everything is that you're engaging in and what elements of it are ritualistic. Okay, the Easter Bunny. This gets funky. Okay. The Easter Bunny is a common symbol of Easter. Now, this is what I could never understand as a kid. What the hell does a bunny have to do with putting Jesus on a cross? And I was like, we teach kids that Santa Claus comes down the chimney and brings us presents when he doesn't. And I was actually quite broken as a child when I used to put out cookies and milk for Santa, thinking he was going to come. And then, I would come through early in the morning and I'd see the cookies and milk was still there. They hadn't been drunk, but my presents from Santa were already under the tree. And then I'd go back to bed and I'd come back and suddenly the cookies and milk were gone. And what this was my mom had forgotten to drink the cookies and forgotten to eat the milk and forgot to drink, forgot to drink the milk, forgot to eat the cookies. And as a result, hadn't properly upheld the illusion or the lie that Santa had been there. And very early on, I figured out that it was my mom who ate the cookies and drank the milk, and Santa didn't exist. And what's funny is that I was 7 years old, or five, 6 or 7 when I worked this out, and my brother was about the same age, and he found out the same way because my mom didn't do due diligence. She put all of Santa's presents under the tree and forgot to eat the milk and cookies before my brother came through, and he saw them standing there. So obviously, he knew Santa had not had the snacks that had been left for him, but somehow the presents had managed to appear under the tree. Therefore, Mommy must be Santa. Yeah, it's Mommy that puts the presents under the tree. But Mommy is also the silly fool who makes us believe that Santa comes down the chimney. Oh, hang on, I grew up in South Africa. We don't have chimneys. It's bloody hot there. We don't need a fireplace. So it's all a load of crap, really, people. None of it makes sense. We just taught the biggest load of codswallop. And because we convince kids to believe in this shit, they'll believe anything when they grow up. They believe the lies fed to them by mainstream media, which is why it's so freaking dangerous to make them believe in these sort of allegories, okay? Because they believe in the superficial level of it, okay, which none of it makes sense. What you need to understand is what these things are really representing. What is the Easter Bunny really representing? Okay, the Easter Bunny is a common symbol of Easter. It's erroneously associated with Easter. And often it's depicted as a bunny rabbit that brings eggs and gifts for children. Archetypally, the Easter Bunny plays the same role as Santa Claus, who brings gifts for children as well. And the old dramatic tradition actually plays out the same way as with Santa. That the Easter hare originally played the role of judge evaluating whether children were good or obedient. Now, that's the same thing Santa Claus does. And Santa himself doesn't exist, much like the Easter hare does not exist. So what are these things representative of? Well, as we looked at with the etymology of Santa, Santa is very much linked to Satan. Okay, so let's have a look at what the Easter hare is really all about. Like most symbolic expression of ritual, the symbolic expression of the Easter hare contains multi-layered symbolic allegory, particularly in the etymology, much like the word Santa. The word hare, all right, is etymologically cognizant with hair, as in my hair on my head, okay, and heir, as in the child that is born from me is my heir, as in my next of kin, the heir who would inherit, my inheritance. He is my heir. So this is interesting because we've come across this before, haven't we? Yes, indeed, Father Time and the Weeping Virgin. This is where this allegory plays out, okay, the cutting of the hair. All right, the cutting of the hair, symbolic significance, means the cutting or the sacrificing of the firstborn. The hidden votive is etymologically encoded into the similarity between hair and heir. Okay, now the word hair, okay, is the same as hair and heir. And therefore, let's have a look at this. The Easter hare symbol, okay, is actually a symbol of sacrifice because that's what this is. The cutting of the hair is symbolic of sacrifice. It's symbolic of the sacrifice of the firstborn, sacrificing of the innocent, okay? In very much the same way, the symbolic expression of the Easter hare is representative of the sacrificial votive indicated by the etymological similarities of the words hair, and air. Now, what's interesting to notice is that flowers play quite a large role in this as well. In fact, fauna and flora tie into dragonology quite a bit when you look at fruit, because fruits and flowers are the feminine part of the plant, and first fruits is a symbol that comes up quite a lot. But the concept of spring flowers is the same as the first fruits, okay, and which is in turn indicative of sacrificing of the firstborn. So spring flowers, again, always representative of the first fruits, which in turn is representative of sacrificing of the innocent or the firstborn. Okay, so we covered off the first fruits before, but I'll take you through it again. You find this in the Bible. It says, honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits of all your increase, so that your barns will be filled with plenty and your vats will overflow with new wine. This is ritual, okay? You bring your first fruits so that you can have a good harvest. Okay, that's why they perform rituals. And what's very, very interesting to notice is that the first fruit offering is a very common thing. It comes up quite a lot in the Bible. All right, and the first fruits, again, representative of offering of the first fruits is the same as an offering of the firstborn, or the sacrificing of the firstborn. Okay, much like the flowers, the spring flowers is pretty much the same thing. It's representative of the first fruits. So the concept of giving and receiving a gift of cut flowers, okay, is the representative of a hidden sacrificial votive. That is what this is all about. There's a long tradition of giving cut flowers as a gift. Now, it's interesting because I hate getting cut flowers as a gift because they die. Everybody knows that once flowers get cut, there's only a certain period of time until they're dead. You're sacrificing those flowers by cutting them. If you'd left them to grow, they probably would have lived a lot longer, okay, and wilted away naturally. Okay, it's a sacrifice. Cutting flowers represents hidden sacrificial votive. It's symbolic, okay? Much like the first fruits and the firstborn, cut flowers or the spring flowers are symbolic of the first fruits or the firstborn, the sacrificial votive. It's a hidden symbolic allegory of the sacrificial votive. And it's interesting, where do we find cut flowers turning up? Well, in all of the most common rituals, of course. The whole concept of marriage and weddings is rooted in ritual, along with the ritual wedding flowers, which is indicative of sacrificing of the firstborn or the innocent, okay? And this is, of course, the virgin in white, like we have Father Time cutting the virgin's hair, all right? The virgin's represented by the lady wearing white. Most women supposedly are supposed to be virgins before they get married, which is why they wear white when they get married. But that's just the tradition. It's not necessarily always the reality. But that's what it represents. The woman in white represents the virgin. And this represents the sacrifice in her hands. Very interesting. Think about it. Why carry flowers? Anyway, flowers turn up at funerals too. A common ritual which accompanies funerals is the giving and receiving of cut flowers, and this is sometimes laid on the funeral casket. And again, why go to all that effort when someone's already in the ground? Yeah, to make it look pretty for a few standers by. No, it's ritual sacrifice. It's an homage. It's symbolic votive. So the procession of Psyche is something that we've covered off quite a bit previously. What I want to represent here is I've spoken about funerals and weddings. Now, what a wedding actually is nothing more than a reenactment of a funeral. Most people don't realize this. They go and spend a fortune on wedding dresses and cakes and everybody else's booze and champagne only for the auntie to throw up in the toilet. You know, it's a really, really fun old affair for a day and maybe a brief honeymoon and a lot of money and much ado and energy gone into this big, massive ritual. But really what it is, it's the whole walking the bride down the aisle. That's symbolic of a funeral procession, okay, which is why weddings and funerals are always linked together. That's what a wedding is. It's nothing more than a reenactment of a funeral. Okay? This is indicated in the procession of Psyche. When Psyche was betrothed to Cupid, all right, her family took her in a procession which was akin to a funeral procession. Look how sad they all look. It's a funerary procession. That is how it was in ancient Roman times, is that a wedding procession is actually described as like a funeral procession, because marriage was considered to be the death of a woman's old life and the rebirth into a new one. Hence the ritual of taking on the man's name, thus creating a new identity, killing off your old identity by getting rid of your old name and taking on a new identity. It's a rebirth. Okay, all of this ties in to each other, which is why you change your name when you get married. It's because you die and you're reborn. And the wedding procession, the whole wedding ceremony, is nothing more than a funeral procession or ceremony. Okay, one of the most commercial of all rituals being Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, also known as Saint Valentine's Day or Feast of Saint Valentine, is marked by the ritualistic giving of cut flowers, treats, and of course, greeting cards. I think the entire greeting card industry was born out of Valentine's Day. And the symbol of St. Valentine's Day, or Valentine's symbols, usually are roses or flowers. And flowers come up quite a lot in dragon etymology and serpentine symbolism. And then, of course, the heart shape, very common. It's a very common Valentine's symbol, in fact, probably the most common. And, of course, doves, which we've covered off in previous dragonologies, which are representative of the serpent. The word columba and colubra. We've spoken about that before. Colubra meaning serpent, columba meaning dove, and that's the Latin versions of serpent and dove, and the interlinking and connection, etymological connection of those two words shows the relationship between birds and serpents symbolically. Cupid, of course, a winged little cheruby being, as we've always discussed. Any being with wings like this is normally indicative of angelic serpent dragon beings. Okay, so don't need to get too much more into what Cupid represents. It's obvious from the fact that he's a little flying angel that he's representative of a dragon, but also the little baby Pootie and Cupids and little flying baby looking angels. Why they make them looking small and babyish and children-like and innocent, again, you think it's also cute, but it's actually got a very sinister undertone, because it's all about sacrificing of the innocent. Okay, remember Saturn actually cut off Cupid's wings, and that represented the sacrificing of the innocent. That's why they make them look like babies, these little flying baby angels. Because it's cute, it's because it represents the sacrifice of the firstborn. Yeah. Anyway. Very interesting artwork here. Everybody knows how much I love my artwork and art history. This is a depiction by Jacopo Bassano, a 16th century depiction, Renaissance depiction of Saint Valentine baptizing Saint Lucia. What's very interesting is Saint Lucia is actually a feminine version of Lucifer. Okay, but Lucilla, I should say, Saint Lucilla. The baptizing is very interesting, because the baptizing theme comes up again as we go through this. But you'll notice the same themes are always kind of linked together. Yeah, you just can't escape them. There has to be some significance to these things, because they keep coming up again and again and again. They're not there by accident, as we've already proven. Everything has symbolic significance. Okay. I'm going to focus a little bit about ritual adornment, and this is a bit more fun and lighthearted. Ritual adornment, or, dressing up, putting on masks, makeups, or even the wearing of a veil, all very ritualistic, and this we've covered off in previous dragonologies. Also, a ritual practice, the ritual decorating of the tree. As a kid, I remember it used to be quite ritualistic. There was a certain way we went about it, and it was always done by the 16th, and we always took the Christmas decorations done only after the 1st of January, and it's all about the timings and, other Christmas decor, perhaps, some tinsel on the ceiling or lights on your house or whatever. The decorating of Easter eggs, as we've already spoken about. And the adornment of idols and temples. We spoke previously about how they cover the Kaaba stone in Mecca, and or go on to the adornment of idols a bit more. But gift wrapping, we've covered off quite a lot. And of course, then the decorating of these gifts represents the hidden votive or the concealment of the sacrifice. Of course, flowers, cut flowers, representative of sacrifice. And then the adornment with jewels and food. And food, of course, symbolic of feasting and eating, which comes up again and again. So ritual adornment, we're going to cover all of this in a lot more detail. Cake decoration and adornment. A common feature of rituals known as a wedding is the decorated wedding cake. Now, the same things come up again and again. The cake comes up everywhere. You always find a cake at celebrations. And of course, guess what? At one of the most common, the wedding ritual, you'll find the adorned cake with all the decorations. One of the more fancy cakes that you come across in your lifetime is the wedding cake. It is always beautifully adorned, okay? And cakes are a common feature of ritual celebrations, commonly turning up in things like Easter, Christmas, birthdays. And why? Because it is a wheat feast object, okay? Always turns up at ritual feasting and is made largely of wheat. It is a wheat-based product. And sugar, the two biggest ingredients in there: wheat, sugar, eggs, milk. All very ritualistic ingredients. Think about it. Okay, so the ritual decoration and adornment that we spoke about, this comes up quite a lot around this time of year, particularly in places like California and South America. You've got the whole Santa Muerte season going on at the moment, which is very interesting. One of the best known examples of ritual adornment is the concept of decorating the Santa Muerte sugar skulls. And I've covered off the sugar skulls a lot in previous Dragonologies, but basically what this is a skull made of sugar, which they ice and make it look all pretty with little flowers and stuff on. And these sugar skulls are usually prevalent around Halloween. They celebrate the Day of the Dead, which is obviously the 1st of November. Halloween is All Saints Eve, which happens the night before. And it's pretty much like Christmas. You have Christmas Eve and you have Christmas Day. Or you have All Saints Eve and you have All Saints Day. And Halloween is All Saints Eve. And people get dressed up and run around, do all sorts of crazy shit. But one of the more interesting rituals of this time of year is, of course, the whole sugar skull craze that goes on. And the adornment of the sugar skull. This is huge, is the decorating of the sugar skull, one of the biggest traditions that comes along with this. Okay? Now, Santa Muerte is one of the more common dress-ups for Halloween. We've been a lot through, we've covered off the Santa Muerte makeup and stuff in previous Dragonologies and sort of what that looks like. But what comes up a lot with Santa Muerte is flowers. When I was looking at Santa Muerte costumes, you see lots of flowers in the hair, lots of flowers everywhere. There's a lot of flower allegory. Again, a lot of flower symbolism. Okay, and again, this is not by accident. It's because the representations of Santa Muerte, which Santa Muerte means Saint Death, yes, Santa Claus, Saint. You can even see these words are linked together, okay, just by translating them. Okay, so Santa Muerte or Saint Death is often depicted covered in flowers, all right, and flowers, as we've already spoken about, represents the sacrificing of the firstborn or the innocent. And of course, Santa Muerte is commonly depicted covered in a bridal gown or a veil. She's often in bridal gown, which is very interesting, and often containing jewelry or money, adorned in jewels or pearls or flowers. Yeah, she's holding flowers. Flowers all around her. There's lights all around her. Here's her scythe over there. But there's all this adornment that goes on to this skeletal figure of Santa Muerte. And very much the same thing goes on at Christmas time. Ritual decoration of Christmas trees. And the decoration of Christmas trees is an example of ritual adornment, as is the decorating of the Christmas presents. Don't just cover them, you put bows on them and all sorts of things, yeah? It's all about adornment, ritual adornment. And an example of the adornment of idols Here we've got the Naga stones, okay, which Naga is a serpent-like god or deity from the Vedic traditions. And here are the Naga stones, and look how they're flowers and wheat, sprinkle wheat at the base of these Naga stones, and they put leis around them. They adorn the stones, okay? They even paint it with little blotches of red. This is where the Hindi dots come from, is these little red blotches they put here, which represent the third eye. But these are adorned. These idols are adornments, are adorned with various bits and pieces. So the adornment of idols in honor of the dragon is a common ritual practice and is represented in many different ways, in many different traditions, but ultimately marks the same bloody thing. Here's an example of that. Buddha. Okay, in Buddhism, statues of Buddha are often richly adorned with gold. And here's someone adorning a statue of Buddha with gold leaf. In fact, there's some statues that have been adorned with so much gold that they're like a couple of, like 30 centimeters or so thick gold from how many people have come with gold leaf and adorned them, and, you know, ritual offerings of gold. Now, this is an interesting way of adorning. In Hinduism, idols representing Shiva are ritually adorned with milk. They pour milk over it. Okay, one of the key ingredients on the cake, as we spoke about, a very common ritual ingredient. And what's interesting to notice is that the pouring on of the liquid becomes a very common theme. Okay, this sort of like covering with the liquid. For example, baptism. The ritual of baptism is actually meant to represent death of the old sinful selves and rebirth. And people talk about being a born-again Christian. Well, you can't be a born-again Christian unless you've been baptized, okay? Because they kill you in the water and they bring you up alive again when they bring you out the water. That baptism actually represents the killing people off, a sacrifice. Okay, of course, they don't actually kill people in a baptism, but that's what it is allegoric of. Okay, and yeah, so this whole killing off our old selves and birth the new one, that's again evident in the whole wedding ceremony. So this is a common theme that comes back several times as well. Is birth, rebirth, cycles, regeneration. Very interesting. All tied into this sort of fertility, sun, solar cycles. Anyway, here's another example of the way in which we just commonly do things without thinking about what we're doing. I remember attending my brother's baptism or christening, as it's known. Okay, infant baptism or christening. Very interesting concept, because apparently this is when you give the child the name as well. You officially you christen them, you give them their name, and this is done with the process of pouring some water onto the head. It's normally done by an ordained person, so a priest who's initiated or qualified supposedly to perform this particular ritual. Okay, and again, the christening or baptizing of an infant or a child is ritual marking the death and rebirth. Okay, because what happens at a wedding? Okay, it's a funeral procession. You die, you give away your old name, and you take on a new one. Well, it's funny. This is where you supposedly name the child as at a christening. The giving of the name is linked with the same ritual that enacts death and rebirth. All of these things are intricately interwoven into each other for a reason. Yeah. So this is an interesting one because most people didn't realize when they did the ice bucket challenge what they were doing. Okay, a very good way to get everybody engaging in a mass ritual. Oh, I'm gonna do the ice bucket challenge. I'm gonna be a fucking hero and raise money for cancer. Oh, you bunch of morons. Really, the trend of the ice bucket challenge is nothing other than drowning ritual. Okay. You know, and think about it, suffering, making people suffer as well, because it's cold water, right? And just pour water over you. You pour cold water because you want them to suffer. That's ritualistic. There's nothing, you know, there's no practical purpose in this other than for ritual. There's a purpose to everything, okay? Absolutely everything. But to the ignorant person looking at this going, what the hell are these people pouring ice water over themselves for? You think, well, there's got no real purpose to it. Yeah, maybe a bunch of people raise a bit of money for some stupid charity, but like, what is the real deeper allegory? Okay, nothing more than a drowning ritual. And all these celebrities, and I had loads of friends, and we've seen loads of people we know who've gone and put photos of themselves on Facebook getting covered and videos of themselves getting covered in ice buckets of water. Yeah, you know, you didn't change the world with that. All you did was add to the ritual. Thank you very much. Anyway, sacrifice by drowning. The ritual of drowning has its origins as veneration to death as its own god. Now, that's pretty profound, okay? This is why they engaged the drowning rituals. Very, very big. Rituals of drowning are very big. You find the ritual of drowning coming up in Hamlet with Ophelia, who drowns, and Ophelia, obviously Ophi, being a serpent root word. Yeah, it's a veneration to death as its own god. That's what the drowning rituals are about. What's interesting to notice is how many celebrities have drowned in their bathtubs or have been drowned in their swimming pools. Supposedly their own bathtubs and their own swimming pools. You'd think, you know, they'd been in these things before. They wouldn't drown in their own bathtubs and swimming pools. Yeah, it's happened. You know, drowned in a bathtub in a hotel. What, you think she'd never been in a bathtub before? Yeah, drowned in a swimming pool. Brian Jones, he was the former guitarist for the Rolling Stones. Drowned in his own swimming pool. Interesting. Natalie Wood, we've dealt with this before in previous Dragonology. Also, ritually drowned. And interesting to get on to the next bit of ritual, which people just kind of take for granted, okay? Because this is a biggie. It's the birthday. The ritual of the birthday happens once a year, and thus birthday celebrations are tied to solar cycles, making them a ritual. Like everything else that's tied to solar cycles is a ritual, so is our birthdays, because they are tied to the solar cycles. We celebrate them once a year. The year is marked by the movement of the sun. Okay, so therefore, technically birthday celebrations are classified as ritual celebrations. And this is the reason why at birthdays you have all the token ritual items turning up. For example, the cake, okay, the candles which you light, okay, there's a lot of allegory to candles and torches, which we've spoken about previously. Cut flowers, wrapped gifts, adorned wrapped gifts, you know, it's all there, as if it wasn't enough to recognize the fact that you celebrate it once a year, therefore it's tied to solar cycles, therefore it is ritual. Just look at all the token items that are associated with birthdays. All very ritualistic. Cannot be denied. Birthdays are rituals. But if you didn't believe me, speak to Satanist Anton LaVey, because the Satanist perspective is this, that the birthday is the most important holiday to a Satanist. Above Walpurgis, above Halloween, comes your birthday. Okay? Anton LaVey was the founder of the Church of Satanism and author of the Satanic Bible. And he says that the birthday is the most important holiday to a Satanist. Interesting. Okay. So as part of Judaic rituals, the Sabbath is celebrated every 7 days. And that's interesting because we spoke about cycles of time previously, and we've not really dealt with sort of like the 7-day cycle of the week and why that's important. Okay. And the Sabbath is usually celebrated on a Saturday. Okay. Here it says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. Exodus 20, verse 8. Now let's take a look at the Sabbath, 7, and Saturday. All right. First off, Saturday comes from Saturn. Okay. Satan, Saturn, Saturday. 7 is interesting. We'll get into that in a minute. But I want to look at some other things first. The word 7 is etymologically cognizant with Saba. 7, Saba. Okay, we've dealt with that previously. And Saba means star. All right. We've spoken about star early on in the presentation, and it's important because it comes in now. It's a very important symbol. Okay. The star is further indicative of Saba, meaning morning. Okay, as in the morning star, also known as Lucifer. Interesting. Now, the word star is etymologically cognizant with Satyr. Okay, all you've done is move the T from before the A to after the A. See the T's before the A here, we've got the T after the A. Okay, so the word star is etymologically cognizant with satyr, and satyr means concealed, hidden, which is indicative of the occult. The word occult simply means that which is hidden. Okay, let's have a look at satyr. In the Greek mythology, a satyr is represented as a man with a horse-like features, okay, with horse-like features, usually horse tails, okay, and usually a very big penis, and sometimes equine hind legs, but so they vary. Sometimes they've actually got like 4 legs as well, the satyr, but they're usually associated with fertility and virility. That's why they normally have a very large erect penis on a satyr. And here's an example of the sexuality that comes in with the theming of the satyr. And this is a depiction of the satyr and the nymph, and the nymph is depicted with cloven hooves, much like the satyr is depicted with cloven hooves. Okay, and this very clearly indicating penetration over here. This is a depiction of satyr's ritual sex with a nymph. Okay, that's exactly the name of this picture. Okay, what is this called? Satyr's ritual sex with a nymph, sketched by Agostino Carucci, I think it's it. Yeah. Anyway, the word nymphomaniac originates with the concept of a nymph, obviously, and is indicative of an obsession of sex. That's what nymphomaniac means. If someone's a nymphomaniac, they like a lot of sex, have a lot of sex, are obsessed with sex. Many different interpretations of that, but yeah, it's very sexual in nature. And of course, the word satire is indicative of satiate and satisfy, which are words very much related to sexual appetite and desire. Now, what's also interesting is these 2 words, satyr and satyrs. The word satyr is indicative of satyr, meaning crops, obviously harvest time and seasons. So that's indicative of harvest, which is, of course, inextricably tied in with ritual. Harvest and ritual cannot be separated. And, of course, then there's satyrs, all right? Satyrs meaning seed, stock, genealogy, or race. And genealogy and race are 2 things that we've dealt with quite a lot in previous dragonologies, okay? Very interesting that they come up again. What's interesting to notice is the satyr acquired goat-like aspects as Roman influence came into effect. And it became known as Faunus. Faunus is a nature spirit associated with fertility and often associated with the Greek god Pan. We've covered Pan in great detail in previous dragonologies. But Faunus, okay, gives rise to the word fornication. Of course, the sexual element's still in here. The word fornication, which references acts of a sexual nature, is rooted in the concept of the sexual faunus. Yeah, you can see the cloven hooves again of the faunus. That supposedly is a nymph. Now, satire. The word satyr is etymologically cognizant with satire. And satire is that which references literary or theatrical pieces, masking or concealing a deeper meaning. Now, a synonym for the word satire, I beg your pardon. A synonym for the word satire is the word parody. Interesting that, because the par, as we've spoken about many times before, comes from the dragon root word para, pala, pior. Well, it actually comes from para, but para is part of the dragon root word triad, para, pala, pior. So you've got parody, which is a synonym of satire with a dragon root word in it. Interesting. So what does the second part of parody actually mean? Well, from the word parody, the root word ode, okay, means song. Examples, melody or tragedy, okay? And tragedy, goat, tregos, means tregos is the Latin word for goat, okay? That's where the first part of tragedy comes from. But what you've got over here is song, okay, is what the meaning of ode is. So wherever you find ode, I sometimes write odes of poetry, okay? Ode literally means song. So melody, okay? Mel actually means dark, so dark song, okay, or evil song. Tragedy, goat song. All right, and that's what parody means, okay? It means, have a look here, dragon song. That's what a satire is, okay? Satire is that which it's masking and concealing a deeper meaning. Think about it. Everything we do in Dragonology is about symbolism, masking, and concealing deeper meanings. All ties in together, yeah? It's a very interwoven, interlinked tapestry. So satire, the synonym for satire is parody, and par is a dragon root word. Odi means song, so you've got dragon song. That's what parody is. It's a dragon song, concealing a deeper meaning, because that's what satires do. They conceal a deeper meaning. Interesting, eh? Anyway. So talking about song, music, song, and dance, all inextricably linked with ritual. That all started off with ritual way back when ritual was the root of theatre. The concept of music, song, and dance all comes back to ritual in every single culture. Doesn't matter which one you go to. It's all about ritual. In fact, parties, festivals, and carnivals are all rooted in ritual. And we've gone through the etymology of all of these words, parties, festivals, and carnivals previously. Fest, obviously, feast. Carn, as in carnivore. And party, well, we've just looked at this word here, par, from para. That's where party comes from. So etymologically, these three words are rooted in serpentine dragon etymology. Why? Because the concept of parties, festivals, and carnivals are all rooted in ritual. Yes, they are. Shiva and Saturn. Okay, we spoke about Saturn quite a bit, and we're going to get into a bit more about what's going on here. We spoke about earlier as well, the adornment of the shrine of Shiva with milk, okay? Pouring on of milk, much like a baptism of Shiva with milk. Very interesting, okay? What does Blavatsky say about Shiva? From Isis Unveiled, page 578, she says, "Now we have but to remember that Shiva and the Palestinian or Israeli Baal or Moloch and Saturn are identical." Now, Saturn is also Satan, okay? So Shiva is just the Hindu version of Satan, basically. Now, star and stare, we spoke about star originally. Star gave us satire. The words star and stare are etymologically cognizant with each other. Very easy to see. All you have to do is put an E on the end of star and you've got stare. Now, stare is a word, is a synonym for watch, look, and peer. Okay, watcher, we've covered this off. The watchers, look, which is all these words are rooted in dragon etymology. Peer is also rooted in the pala, para, pure group of dragon root words. So they're all very significant. Okay, now, so you've got stare, which ties in with this etymology, watch, look, and peer. All these words which have to do with the process of looking with the eye. Okay, or the Latin word for eye is oculus. Think of an optician. Okay, or your optic nerve, which is the nerve that goes into your eye and touches your eyeball to your brain. So, you know, this is very much the whole etymological symbolic allegory of it, is that eye, meaning oculus, is where you get the word occult, which means hidden from sight. Okay, hidden from what we can see. Okay, but all the words to do with the eye, or looking, or seeing, or staring, or peering, or watching, all of it is tied into dragon etymology. You can't escape it. Everywhere you look, it's there. Even the word I, the way it looks in comparison with the word Eve, right? Check it out. The Y is very similar to the V. You just have to take the tail away and you've got a V. The symbolic concept of the word I is a central theme to the occult and looks similar to the word Eve. Okay, you've got the eye here on the top of the Freemason symbol. Look, this is the square over here and the compass with the Freemasonic G, which we'll get into in a bit. Here you've got the eye, all-seeing eye again. So let's deal with the Masonic G. Yeah, the letter G is the 7th letter of the alphabet, like the Sabbath day. Okay, 7. Letter G, 7th letter of the alphabet. And G That's the big letter G, that's a capitalized G, or the little g. Okay, and how they formed. The letters G is formed out of a combination of D and J. Okay, so D and J, that's how it was formed, D and J. The combination of D and J, or DJ, is distinctly serpentine. Let's get into this a bit more. This symbol is the cobra at rest. In Egyptian hieroglyphics, okay, it represents the J sound in our phonetic language, okay? So this symbol here is the J, DJ sound in our phonetic language, but in hieroglyphics, it's represented as a cobra at rest, yeah? So here's the DJ in Egyptian hieroglyphics, the J in Abydos. Here's a cartouche, okay, and it shows you the cobra at rest. And here's a cartouche of Horus, representing Horus, and shows you the serpent at rest, again, which is the J sound, DJ. Very distinctly serpentine DJ. And this turns up in the Arabic classifications because the dj is the root of the word jinn, all right, which references an Arabic classification of malevolent angel or winged serpent deity. Here's some pictures of them, yeah? Here's the snake, here's winged. I've got a couple of pictures here of, here's some snakes coming out here, horns, serpent looking with long tongues, you know, various pictures of the jinn, the original Arabic type pictures here, stars, all these depictions turn up together, yeah? Another picture of the stars. Okay, so going back to the 7, the 11, the Eve, I beg your pardon. Eve turns up in the number 7. We just talked about the Sabbath, okay? Eve turns up in 7 and 11. Keyword word Eve turns up in numerical representations, 7 and 11. Very, very key numbers in Dragonology. Okay, we've spoken about 7 a lot, and those of you who know about the 11 significance, you'll know exactly why you have Eve turning up there. Of course, the words Eve and evil are etymologically cognizant with each other. Okay, and of course, that's what this whole story of the Garden of Eden is all about, is that this was the start of evil in the world, or something to that effect. Anyway, and then, of course, you've got the whole concept of, we looked at evil here. The word evil is indicative of the devil, just as the word good is indicative of the word God. Okay, sometimes they are the same thing, the God and the devil. Evil and live. The words evil and live are the same word spelled backwards. No jokes. Look at it. That's live. Okay, L-I-V-E. Yeah, L-I-V-E. It's evil is live spelled backwards. What's interesting to note from this word arrangement, you also get the words vile and lie. All right? Words inextricably linked with the serpent. Themes is linked with the serpent. Now, from live, you get liver, okay, just by adding the R. In the ancient Roman traditions and religions, it is believed that the blood came from the liver, and therefore all life came from the liver, because life was in the blood, which is why you drink the blood as part of blood rituals, okay? And that's why the liver was called the liver, because it was believed that's where all life came from. And it's life which makes us live or alive, which is very interesting, because you've got this very, very macabre tradition in these ancient religions and rituals. In ancient religion of ancient Rome, a haruspice was a person trained to practice and perform divination called haruspicy, which involved the inspection of the entrails of sacrificed animals. And basically, they'd cut them open and they'd pull out the entrails and they'd read them. And the reading of the omen, specifically from the liver, is known by the Greeks through the term of heptomancy. Okay, heptomancy is the reading of the liver, and it's a very ritualistic practice. In fact, what has been found quite a lot in sort of ruins and artifacts are clay models of livers with markings on them. This one's Etruscan. Okay, the markings on this particular clay liver is Etruscan, but all very ritualistic. Okay, all ritualistically marked out. It's marking some, it's telling a story. It's all got to do with their ritual. Someone read a liver and they marked it out on a clay liver so that it was sort of, written down. Okay, because that's part of the ritual as well. Writing, ritual, got the RIT root. So heptomancy is interesting because here you've got a clay liver with Etruscan, a very old, it's like halfway between hieroglyphics and Greek, as you've got the Etruscan language. So a clay liver of a ritual depicting ritualistic inscriptions in Etruscan. And they come up quite a lot. You find this is cuneiform writing on clay models of livers or carvings of livers. And these divinatory livers are very common. This is in the British, sorry, I beg your pardon, this is in the Louvre, all right? Old Assyrian clay liver models recovered from the palace at Mari from about 18th, 19th century BC, now displayed in the Louvre in Paris. So they're not just one of them. These things turn up all over the show. Divinatory livers. The Babylonians are famous for a heptoscopy. Okay, this practice is mentioned in the book of Ezekiel 21:21. It says, "For the king of Babylon stands in the parting way, at the head of two ways, to use divination. He shakes the arrows, he consults the household idols, he looks at the liver." Okay, so that's what these are, divinatory livers. Okay, and there's a lot of this kind of in myths and legends, stories of the ritual eating of the liver. This goes on in a lot of rituals, that they eat the heart, they eat the liver. Specific organs have specific functions in specific rituals. And in fact, one of the oldest elements of ritual sacrifice is the eating of the liver. And this is actually depicted in the legend of Prometheus, where Zeus supposedly sent a hawk or an eagle, but Zeus is often depicted as a hawk or an eagle. So maybe it was Zeus who actually went and supposedly gnawed on Prometheus's liver to keep him in agony and suffering for the rest of his life. Very interesting allegory, because Prometheus was supposedly the person who brought light to humankind. I believe that the entity or being that brought electricity, energy, fire to humanity. And the fact that he was punished that way is very interesting. Anyway, that for another Dragonology. The cooking or sacrament preparation. Okay, for example, cut the liver out, add specific parts of it. Some people might decide to do certain things where they prepare it with herbs, put it into a pot with water. Some people might, prepare a burnt offering by cooking it. But the preparation of sacred feasts associated with any ritual celebration is usually done by a trained and initiated priest or priestess. So whoever was preparing the liver or the heart or chopping up the body and putting it on the fire, it's not just anybody that does that. It's a specially ordained person, priest or priestess, master of ceremonies, who does that particular function. And that particular function today is covered off by what is commonly known as a chef. The modern day concept of a chef or cook originates with the sacred initiate tasked with preparing the ritual feast. And the concept of cooking, particularly meat and harvestables, so fruit and vegetables, is rooted in ritual immolation. Okay, ritual immolation usually is associated with, well, what it is, ritual immolation is the burning of the offering. You heard they burn the offering. It's a burnt offering, or a holocaust, which is another word for a burnt offering. Heard the word Holocaust, that's used for World War II, because that was a sacrifice, all right? Burnt offering. So why do we cook food? Because we've been told to do it through ritual practice. There's actually no health benefits to cooking food whatsoever. It's just part of the ritual. We've become so used to it that we think of it as, oh, food has to be cooked. No, they used to prepare foods by, ritually burning them, the burnt offerings, and then eating the burnt offering, even if it was completely charred. It's part of the ritual to eat this stuff. And, interesting. So The whole concept of cooking is rooted in ritual immolation, interesting, usually associated with the burnt offering or Holocaust, followed by ritual eating and feasting on of the burnt offering or the cooked food. The raw pursuit. Well, I must just tell you, I'm a big fan of the raw pursuit. We eat about 80% of our food is raw. So we encourage people to stop ritualistically destroying the nourishment in their food by ritualistically burning, heating, or cooking food. Raw is best for optimal health. We've been taught to do it through ritual. It's not necessary. That is it, guys. If you've missed anything, please go back and watch all the previous episodes of Dragonology available in our high definition archives and available on YouTube. And of course, please do contribute to our network support fund. We are trying to get our broadcast license sorted for 2016. So we have a GoFundMe campaign going at the moment to raise 60,000 euros. So please do donate if you can, or share the campaign, or like our Facebook page. We only have 2 months left of 2015, so please do help us raise the funding to keep Conscious Consumer Network on the air for 2016. Do go and check out all the details. They're available on our website, consciousconsumernetwork.tv. You'll find the archives there. You'll find the live stream there. You'll find all the latest articles and updates. And of course, you'll find the updated broadcast guide, which gets updated weekly. So please check the broadcast guide for all the latest programming and scheduling. There have been some time zone changes due to the clocks going back for daylight savings, clocks going forward for daylight savings. I don't know. Just check it out. Make sure you know when we're on. You don't want to miss anything. If you do, we are available in the archives, and we're available on DVR function, so you can always just rewind. As always, we thank you for supporting free and independent media. It has been a pleasure to be with you this evening. My name is Mel Ve, and I will see you next week.
The pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world should be the focus of every person on our planet. The reason it is not is because people are kept distracted by the illusions and deceit propagated by the corporately controlled mainstream media. In recent years, the rise in truly informed, savvy researchers and journalists who have all taken to the air in various capacities has given rise to a new genre of media. We have seen the explosion of truly free and independent media, and thus the need to create an ethical live broadcast network that facilitated these brave and tireless souls became apparent. With a great amount of research and meticulous planning, Conscious Consumer Network was created. CCN is a first-of-its-kind broadcast network that is specifically dedicated to free and independent media with absolutely no government control, corporate sponsorship, or advertising. The live broadcast network runs full-time with an average of 25 shows and live broadcasts a week. The high-definition live stream is free to view and is accessible from any computer terminal with online access, including laptops, tablets, smartphones, and smart TVs. All shows are archived onto YouTube and are freely available to view in order to educate and inform as many as we can without imposing monetary limitations. CCN was successfully launched on the 1st of January 2015 and has gone from strength to strength as we have improved and increased the capacities and functionalities of the network, as well as an ever-rotating and improving lineup of content which is broadcast daily. CCN is blessed to be the home of some of the hardest hitting, most cutting edge, truly educational and informative materials. Catch interviews, reviews and talk shows from the many different and beautiful perspectives from CCN's family of interviewers and broadcasters. Since the 1st of January 2015, we have produced over 800 shows. We have over 2 million YouTube minutes watched every month, and we have an average of 1 million hits a day on CCN's website. CCN is viewed in over 147 different countries and hosts broadcasters from 5 different continents. The time has now come to generate funding to keep CCN on the air for the duration of 2016. The total sum needed to continue broadcasting for 2016 is $60,000. This budget includes the replacement of computer equipment, the acquisition of secure servers, which are most needed as we keep getting hacked, plus the renewal of the broadcast license fee for 2016. This is a fraction of the annual budget used by mainstream media networks producing a similar quantity of content. This is what makes CCN so successful, unique, and accessible, is the ability to run a project of this size and reach on such minimal resources. CCN does not claim ownership over any of the material we produce and broadcast, as we firmly believe that information is the common heritage of all beings, and thus CCN belongs to you, the public, and it is up to you all to keep CCN going. CCN would like to thank those who have contributed to the network in the past with resources, content, information, time, and energy. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.